Hey, welcome back. This is Erik Cortina. This is part 2 of the PRS reloading series. A couple of questions that I've had. Okay, so number one is why do I use a Chargemaster 1500? Okay, well, the reason for that is a very economical scale to use, or powder thrower. It is relatively easy to find, and that's something that everybody can get. Okay, that was one of my first throwers, and as you guys can tell, I still have it. Uh, they asked me why don't I use a more, powerful scale or a better scale. I have them. Okay, I have a Prometheus, I have a Sartorius GD503. I mean, I have the scales. Okay, but what good is it for me to show you guys how to reload on a Prometheus? I mean, what good is that to most of you? Okay, it's not. Okay, that's why I'm not doing it. I'm gonna show you that. Plus, for PRS, this is what I do. I use a Chargemaster. Okay, for PRS. So I've also been asked why don't I double check my my weight. I mean, some of you guys take a they throw with one scale, then they transfer to another scale, and then you throw it. Part of what I'm going to show you in this series is that powder charge is not that critical. And I know it's been kind of driven into your head that it is. It's not. I mean, what's really critical is finding the node where powder charge flattens out all your or ES and all that. And if you can find that, then you can load to the middle of that, and then you will have 0.4 to 0.6 grains of powder where the speed doesn't really change. Okay, I have one mid-range, club matches, but I have one mid-range PRS matches thrown with a Harrow's powder thrower. Okay, I guess part of what I'm trying to get into your head is that it's not all about the equipment. I do have, I'm going to say, some of the best equipment on the market, but it becomes more of a convenience, more than a necessity. Okay, so like I said, I have a Prometheus. I don't use it because this is fine. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to touch on those points because I mean it prompted some comments as to, why don't you use better scales, or why don't you get a better scale? I have them. So anyway, this is not about me not getting a better scale because I have it. It's about showing you guys how to do it with this equipment. Now, if I can show you how to do it with that equipment, don't you think you can do it with better equipment? You can. So you guys will see that my emphasis on equipment is on things that I believe really matter. Okay, so for example, you're gonna see that I have custom barrels. You're gonna see that I have pretty expensive scopes. You're gonna see that I have custom actions. You're gonna see that I have pretty much an expensive trigger. See, those are the things that really matter, right? Because you need something that's smooth, reliable, and consistent. Okay. In the reloading room, yes, I have a Dillon 750, but I could do pretty much the same thing on a rug chucker. Okay, so let's get the basics. Okay, and like I said, I'm gonna show you all this, so you're gonna be able to see the kind of groups I get with this equipment. Okay, now again, you can always upgrade. It ain't gonna hurt a thing. All right. Anyway. I'm gonna repeat myself again. I just don't want you guys to get the idea that, oh, well, I don't have a Prometheus. There's no way I'm gonna be able to get the groups that he's getting. Okay, it's not about that. Okay, all right. So brass is once fired. Now it's time to reload it. Okay, I fired this with 35.5 grains of Vitovori N150. Again, that's safe in my rifle. Don't try it on yours. So make sure you work up to that load. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to anneal this brass. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the annealer and get it annealed. All right, so I'll see you over there. All right, so I'm over here by my annealer. I'm using a bench source annealer. I've had this annealer since they first came out. I bought one of the first ones. This was one of the first annealers that would actually rotate the case and use dual torch heads. So when I bought it, this was like state of the art. Okay. As far as the torches, I kind of get them to look like that. And here we go on the brass. Okay. Turn it on. And I'm going to show you what I look for. Alright, let me zoom you in. Okay, I'm going to stay here by the timer. Right there. Look at the flame. Right as the flame turns orange, I want that brass to get out of the way. Alright. There it is. This one's a little too hot. I'm gonna close it down a little bit. There it is. See, right as the flame starts to turn orange, I get the brass out of the way. There you go again. Watch the flame. Right there. Boom. That's how I do it. Okay? So. Alright. Now we're going to do the rest of these. I got about 80 pieces to do. So from now on, just keep the machine fed. I have an aluminum tray right here. This is what I use. Set it right here. It fits perfect. And like I said, just keep the machine fed. Now I don't stand here in front of the machine this whole time. Let me show you what I do when I anneal brass. Alright, so now that we have the brass annealed, we're going to start prepping it. Okay, so how to prep it? Okay, well, I'm gonna give you the steps for a single stage press. Okay, so if I had a single stage press, which I do, but I like using this for PRS, you would first, or me, okay, if I was doing this on a single stage press, I would lube the brass. I use Imperial die wax. I would lube the brass. I would run it through a full length sizing die. Okay, I would bump the shoulders back 2000s, assuming that it needs it. Okay, if it doesn't need to be bumped, I will still run it through a full length sizing die, except I would not bump it. Okay, I would make sure that see, you have to understand, when you size the brass, if you don't support the shoulder will actually move forward. You squeeze the bottom, the top goes out. Okay, so if you try it in your chamber and the chamber is just fine, and then you fully size it without bumping the shoulder, be very careful that it didn't move forward enough to the point that you can't chamber in your rifle. So make sure you check it. Okay, you guys have seen my video on how to set up a full length sizing die. In that video, I show you how to ensure that you have the correct headspace, right? Remember the tape trick on the back of the case? So anyway, you can run that test on your brass if it's not sized to the point that it needs to be bumped back. But I still recommend that you run it through a full length sizing die, because you need to do the body. Okay, the body needs to be done at all times, because if not, the web of the case, which is the thickest part, also the part that you can add a nail, will actually harden on the, it'll get bigger, and you leave it alone and you fire it again, and it could potentially get to the point that it's too large, and then whenever you go size it, it could potentially not size down enough, because like I said, you can't anneal it. So you can run into issues with extracting. You guys have heard about the click, the infamous click at the top of the bolt open. That's because of the web is too large. Okay, so to recap, run it through a full length sizing die, bump the shoulders if needed. If not, at least make sure that they stay right where they're at right now. Okay, if they grow forward, make sure you check on your rifle to make sure that they're going to chamber properly before you load your ammo. Okay, all right, so run it through full length sizing die with bushing. Select the bushing that's gonna fit your needs. Typically I like to go with about a bushing that is about 3/1000. Actually, let me check what bushing I have. So I'm using a 268 bushing. Okay. And I may go to a 269. I'm not sure at this point. Okay, I'm gonna start with a 268. So again, if I had a single press, I'm gonna just go ahead and rattle it all off because I keep getting sidetracked. So if I had a single stage press, first thing I would do is anneal the breast. Yes, I anneal dirty breasts. Okay, it ain't with the primer still in it. Okay, first thing, anneal the breast. Step number 2, full length size the breast. Okay, yes, still dirty. I just wipe it. If you guys heard the podcast, I was talking about how I used to clean the breast always, and I don't anymore because I figured if I have to buy a new die every time I wear out a barrel, well, the time saved is way more than the cost of the die. However, I never had to, so it's fine. However, I do apply die wax, and I apply with my finger, so if there's any grit on this case, I wipe it with this rag and then I apply the lube. Okay, so it's not like I'm putting drastically dirty breast in there. Okay, after it's full length sized with the bushing, shoulder bump back if needed. If not, just leave it where it's at, but still size the body. Okay, then from there it goes to the expander mandrel. Okay, I like to do an expander mandrel about 2/1000 below bullet diameter. Okay, so I'm using a 241 for this 6mm. Okay, after that, again, if I was doing a single stage press, at that point I would chamfer, deburr the brass, and trim it. I use a drill trimmer, so if you have one of those, then I would do it at that point. If you're just going to chamfer and deburr, well, you can do it at that point as well. Okay, if you are going to clean your brass, if you have a wet tumbler, then go ahead and wash the brass before you trim it. Okay, just in case it dings the mouths, then you can it'll fix everything up whenever you put in the drill trimmer. Okay, also, if you use a wet tumbler, don't put it in there for 2-3 hours. Okay, put it in there for 15 to 20 minutes, just enough to get the lube off. Okay, these things don't need to be super clean. If you like it extremely clean, that's fine, but you're probably gonna end up loosening your neck tension or having to go to a looser neck tension because it's probably gonna get too clean. Okay, do not put lube in the necks. If you need lube in the necks, then just loosen your neck tension. Okay, lube is a symptom that your necks are too tight. Okay, all right, so one more time. If I have a single stage press, I would anneal the brass first, full length size next, expander mandrel next. If you're gonna clean it now, and if not, then you move on to trimming or deburring and chamfering, and then of course you prime, you load. If you didn't wash it, then wipe the lube off. Okay, that's single stage version. Okay, the progressive stage is, or the progressive pay. Sorry guys, it's freaking late. But the progressive, what the heck is this thing called? Press. Oh, I should have had a coffee or something. Oh, it's late. Sorry, I've been working all day. And by the way, thank you guys for your support. If it wasn't for your Patreon guys, I wouldn't be doing this. YouTube just demonetizes just about every one of my videos, so it's just not worth to put the time into it. I mean, I do really enjoy passing this on to you guys, but you know, like I said, it's freaking late. Been working. You can probably tell in my eyes. I've been working all day. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. But anyway, back to work. So, progressive press. Okay, here we go. Got it out that time. So here's what I do. Because in PRS, or my PRS rifle dinks up the mouths a little bit, okay? I don't like that, okay? Because see, what I end up doing is I want to get the brass trimmed before I put my next plate on here, because this one's gonna do the full length sizing die. Then I'm gonna throw the powder. Then I'm gonna expand. Then I'm gonna seat. Right? I'm trying to do it all at the same time. So there is no point in here where I can trim the brass. Okay? So or deburr it. So what I do is I use a separate head. Okay? On the first die, I use a Lee Universal decapper die. And on the second die, I use a full length sizing die. Okay? Except I remove the bushing. There's no bushing in here, so it acts just like a body die. And I made an expander mandrel. Okay? This expander mandrel, as you can see, threads on just onto the full length sizing die. And this is my expander mandrel. Okay? So I just made it to be built onto this cap. I mean, I made the whole thing. Okay, so you guys can see what's going on here, right? So I have a body die essentially because I removed the bushing, and then I install this expander mandrel in here. And see, the thing about that expander mandrel is it is a 245, so it's 2 thousandths bigger than bullet diameter. Why? Because all I'm doing at this point is straightening out the brass mouth. Okay, it's not doing much. Okay, so I run it in there, and my brass, it's just gonna expand the necks. Okay, just to iron everything out. Okay, at that point, that's when I trim, chamfer, and deburr my brass in my Giro trimmer. Okay, then once I do all my brass here, just open it all up, then I trim it, and I'll go step by step. Then I can finally run it through my regular reloading head. Okay, that's where I'm gonna full length size again. I'm gonna full length size it twice. Okay, I'm gonna full length size it here. I'm gonna full length size it again over there. Here, this one doesn't push the shoulder down. This one just keeps it the same. That other one's the one that's gonna bump it back 2 thousandths. Okay. However, by the time I run it through that other die, this one already did most of the sizing. So the other one, whenever I'm actually loading the ammo, it's gonna be the press or the handle's gonna be very easy to operate. Okay. So I'm gonna run them through here first. Again, pop the primers out, and then expand the necks. I don't even want to call it expanding. It's just ironing out the necks. Okay. Now, why do I pop the primers out? Because I could easily pop them out in this operation. Okay. Well, the reason I pop them out now is just in case this brass gets way too dirty. Some matches we actually, the brass gets really dirty. If it's raining, it's muddy, whatever. Well, if it was that, I'll probably clean it beforehand. But if I just decide I'm gonna clean my brass, then I can do this. Go wash the brass, come back, trim it, chamfer it, and then I would size it all. So that's why I added the decapper at this point. Okay, it is not necessary. You can simply do it with this die. And if you are doing it on a single stage press, it's pretty much not needed, because you're going to trim after the fact. Okay, I'm only doing this because I'm trying to trim before I load my breast. All right. Whew. Sorry guys, but I'm trying to get it all out, make sure you guys understand everything. Okay. All right, I'm gonna run my breast through here and then we're gonna trim it. All right, I'm gonna lube this thing. I have a brass feeder coming. Okay, so don't freak out when you see me do this. By the way, whenever I do stuff like this, I make this plate right here. Okay, and it just wedges between the come on camera, it just wedges between here so that the primer doesn't feed. Okay, it stays out of the way. All right, and I just use, like I said, Imperial dye wax. I need to show you a dinged up piece of brass so that you guys can see what the dye does. I'm just gonna exaggerate a little bit, but you guys see that? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and mark this one so you guys can see which one it is. Okay, there it is. There it goes. Like I said, sometimes they get dinged up pretty bad. I mean, this is typically what they look like, so it's not bad. Okay, but I just like it perfectly round because if not, the drill trimmer is not going to trim very nice. Is this it? Yep, there it is. Still dinged up. There he goes into the mandrel. There it is. Okay, so after it ran through the expander mandrel, you can see how perfectly round it is. Okay, so that's why I do that. All right, I'm gonna finish these up and then I'll meet you at the trimmer. All right, so we are at my trimmer. This is pretty simple, just a drill trimmer. I have a, just however I adjusted this thing, I have a 10,000 shim on it, okay? I don't remember why, but that's how it's set up, okay? If I want to trim the breast 10,000 shorter, I just remove that shim, okay? That's, I think they call it a skip shim, or I don't know what it's called. The point is you can get a whole set and it is for it's for your dies, but you know, it works perfect here. I also have a locking collar on it so that I can remove it and replace it without it moving, because the ones that come with it, well, actually I don't know what comes with it nowadays. When I bought this thing about 10 years ago, it had some that were not lockable, so obviously they were no good. All right, I adjusted my blade so that it cuts or it trims as when the necks are opened up, not when they're sized. Typically, they're meant to trim when the neck is sized, but as you guys saw, I do mine ahead of time because of the progressive press. Okay. Also, this is a shell holder, custom. I made it with my chamber reamer, so there's no play in it whatsoever. The typical ones that come with it are kind of a spring-loaded shell holder that wobbles just way too much. So this is what I use. Okay, For trim length, well, this is brand new brass, so I just get it to clean up, and then that's how I do it forever. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim all this brass, and then we're gonna go ahead and start reloading it. By the way, this is what it looks like after I trim it. Okay, so perfectly chamfered and deburred. By the way, this is the other reason that I need to full length size my brass. If I didn't full length size it, because this is made with my chamber reamer, it would be extremely tight in here and it would not turn or even go all the way down. So that's why it needs to be full length sized, or at least body sized, and the necks opened up at the same time. Okay, if you guys were wondering why, I don't think I told you, but that's why. If I just open the necks, it won't fit in here. Tip, like I said, this is meant to be sized or trimmed after the brass is sized, but I do it backwards because, well, I already explained why. By the way, that's an RCBS light. Yep. You can reload with these presses or throwers. It's fine.